Hi everyone, it's Morgan with Compass Rose Astrology. Welcome back to the channel. I am happy to start this year off really strong. We got some really awesome new videos coming up. And today, if you're new here, the Celestial Sunday videos, basically we go through all the aspects of the week and what to expect kind of energy-wise, what you might be experiencing this week. And usually I say just kind of grab a tea, a coffee, whatever. I have kind of this brewed sparkling tea to get me through the video, so you should too go ahead and grab something that'll give you some pep in your step, because boy do we have a ton of information to go over, which I've kind of been like throwing around the idea of maybe making separate videos for each of these aspects kind of going forward, instead of one big long video that goes through each aspect for each day through the week, just because there's so much going on. Not just this week, but I just have a lot of things to say about some of these aspects, and I have to kind of cut it down a little bit for videos like this. So just curious what you might be interested in, if you want to kind of like learn a little bit more about aspects and certain reasons why some of these energies are expected, stuff like that. So I just thought I'd throw that out there and see what you guys thought. So, but for this week, let's just jump right in. So this week, not to sound like too contrived or anything, but there's like a lot of energy in the air, a lot of aspects happening that's like quintessential New Year's Eve resolution. And like just this whole overwhelming desire for like revolution and independence, basically. So I think you're really going to be feeling that, just as kind of like an overview. But we also have in the mix Mercury, which is happening in like every aspect this week. So I really think it's going to be around more internal things, more personal things, like how you think, how you speak, how you present yourself, how you brand yourself to the world, stuff like that. So we'll get into the details, but I just wanted to give you like a really quick overview of kind of like the things you'll be feeling this week. So today on the 1st, happy January, by the way, happy New Year, by the way, we have Mercury, and it's going retrograde, or it is retrograde in Capricorn, and it's going to be making a sextile to Neptune and Pisces. And if you don't know, Mercury is kind of the planet that symbolizes like communication and technology. It's about like the way you think, it's travel and just kind of things along those lines. It's messages, like the way basically things are translated, stuff like that. And then we have Neptune, which is traditionally kind of thought of as the planet of like fantasy, idealism, kind of detachment and illusion. And putting those together, we have this theme of like rethinking some sort of a creative approach, especially with retrograde in the mix here. So you could be having this bit of a like fantastical ideal kind of crop up in your mind or in your day-to-day life that might not entirely be based in reality. So or you could also be like actually planning a trip that is kind of unrealistic and will need to kind of be rethought later on and be kind of planned a little bit better. But you might be getting these like spurts of inspiration, like, oh, I should go do this, or I should go here. Like maybe this is something that we could do. But it just is a little bit out of left field, and it might not be entirely based in reason. You know, like maybe you don't have enough time to travel to this place or something. And so you'll just have to rethink the plans a little bit later on in the week. But that's basically how the week starts. On the 2nd, it's kind of a less active day. But one of the things I noticed about this day is that Saturn's going to be directly on the MC, which is the midheaven. And that's the highest point in the sky that the sun will reach. And so when the sun's not there, Saturn's going to be there. And so what that means is like Saturn's overlooking everything. It's overlooking all the planets. It's the highest point in the sky. It's kind of reigning the vibes of the day. So it's kind of feels like it lends this feeling of things being kind of at a standstill. Saturn is very slow. It's a very kind of a let's stop first kind of a planet. And so you might feel that things are just not moving forward. If you might feel kind of alone on this day, because Saturn's the planet that's furthest from the sun, and it's generally associated with isolation and just being by yourself, just being alone. So if any of those feelings kind of pop up that day, that's why. Then on the 3rd, we have Venus in Aquarius sextiling Jupiter in Aries. And I'm really, really happy to see this aspect, honestly, because we have 2 benefics. They're awesome, awesome planets. They generally associate with like really good themes, really good vibes, like happiness, lucky stuff happening in your life. And this just means that they're really supporting each other and kind of amplifying the success and happiness in your life. So this is a really good aspect for most people. Some of the themes to kind of look out for on this day would be luck. You might find yourself really, really lucky. You might find something that just happens to work out and you're like, where did that come from? And that's where it came from. It's Jupiter and Venus happening there. You might also find that more success and happiness is kind of happening on this day. There might be easy connections and communication happening for you. And also a lot of Aquarius influences here for you, because Aquarius is the sign that Venus is in, and it's also co-present with Saturn, which rules Aquarius. So we have these like 2 really strong planets in this sign, and honestly, any of the themes that kind of happened for you when Jupiter went into Aries on the winter solstice will kind of be triggered here. So, but you might even have more kind of like enthusiasm. You might have like feel more courageous when you want to take these steps forward. You'll probably be getting another wave of the energy that happened in December. You might also find, and this is just something that I see a lot with Aquarius, is that you might be receiving some support from the outside that might be kind of speaking to you on an emotionally supportive level. And I mean that by saying that it's not super blatant, and it might not be a super like expressive emotion, you know. It might not be someone like coming out and like being really emotional to you, but what they do for you might speak to you on an emotional level, and it might be their way of emotionally connecting with you too, just not very apparent, basically. And especially because we have the moon and the Mars, which is going retrograde. We have both of those in Gemini, and they're conjunct on this day. While you're having all of this other stuff happening, and like with Venus and Mars, Mars and the moon might be making things in your mood kind of vacillate a little bit, especially with Gemini. So it kind of might make you more prone to anger or confusion while all this stuff is happening around you. But just my tip, my little like word of warning is just don't miss when someone is trying to help you just because something else might be irritating you, you know, like they might be trying to kind of put themselves out there, and it might be not be like super apparent. But they're trying to help, you know. Something else over here might be irritating you, but they're over here trying to make things better and kind of help you along too. Then on the 5th is when we have like some really big stuff happening. So we have the theme of the month, in my opinion. It's going to be Mercury combust under the sun in Capricorn, which means it's underneath the beams. It's like within 3 degrees of the sun, and it's moving retrograde, like we talked about, and it's trine Uranus retrograde in Taurus. So this is gonna be happening all month. Like Mercury, since it's going retrograde, it's gonna be going to direct, and Uranus is retrograde. They're gonna be hitting each other quite a lot this month. So it's combust on the 5th, but then Mercury is going to be Cazimi on the 6th. So it's going to have a little bit of a shift in energy between those 2 days. And then the 7th, Mercury will be combust again as it moves past the sun. And when it's combust, Mercury is his will, or the planet's will, is basically going to be taken over by the sun. Sometimes when this happens, I feel that you need to let your actions and your ideals Sometimes when this happens, I feel like you have to let your actions and ideals speak for yourself instead of your words, because Mercury has no power. The sun is taking all of its power. And so Capricorn really lends this air of saying only what you need to say. Capricorn's very like lean with their words. They don't say things they don't need to say. They don't expand. They don't ramble like air signs. And especially with Uranus going retrograde here, I think there's going to be this feeling of wanting to kind of like undo things. Like maybe you say something that might not come out the way you wanted it to, or might be interpreted differently than what you wanted it to. You might also find that some things that have been said, it doesn't have to be you, it could be somebody else, but it's changing a lot of things around you. It's kind of changing dynamics, basically. And it might come from intentions of reason and logic and practicality, like the things that are being said, but they're being like interpreted differently, especially with all these retrogrades happening. Like that's why it's not entirely being communicated like authentically, basically. You also might feel the urge to kind of like shake up how you present yourself, like whether it's how you address people or how you dress, like it could be that. It could be kind of like a rebranding of yourself if you think about it like that, or how you present yourself on social media. It could be that like a lot. I really see that. But there could be this air of like not quite knowing how to do it. This actually makes me think about a conversation I was having with my friends, and like one of my girlfriends has a stunning sense of style, and like a lot of us are like kind of joke around and are like, yeah, teach us how to look like we like know how to dress ourselves as adults, like stuff like that. So you could be kind of like in that air of just like not really knowing how to move forward, how to dress yourself, to present yourself a certain way, or how to communicate properly in a way that you want to be perceived as a certain way, something like that. So my key words for Mercury this month, especially with everything that's happening with Mercury and Uranus, is that it's restarting a revolutionary approach that ensures freedom and control over your own life. So that's kind of what I'm picking up there with that aspect. So we also have in Capricorn on this day, we have the Sun in Capricorn trine Uranus in Taurus retrograde. So like I said before, Mercury was not quite conjunct with the Sun, but the Sun is exact to Uranus. So with Mercury and the Sun making these aspects to Uranus, basically it's kind of the same vibes, but it could also mean that the idealistic and kind of like independent changes are really personal and include how you see yourself and how you kind of value yourself, and like lots of values that you've had your entire life, because the Sun is very much about ideals and values. So I really see that those would be intertwined with any of the changes that you want to make this month. Then on the 6th, we have a full moon in Cancer, which is fun. And then we have Mercury actually being Cazimi with the Sun in Capricorn. So basically your expressions or whatever you're kind of inspired to stand for are being properly communicated, and likely will get really kind of started on this day. This is like the good day where everything will come the way that you want it to. Everything will be perceived the way you want it to, especially with a full moon in Cancer, which is happening in the sign opposite the Sun and Mercury. So that's happening in Cancer, and Capricorn and Cancer are like this. So they're making an opposition by sign. And this means you will have a lot of emotional investment in what you're doing, honestly. However, the one thing that does come up for me with Capricorn and Cancer is the tendency to kind of put up barriers. So we have the Cancer symbol is the crab, you know, that shell. It's very, very symbolic of like putting up barriers, shutting oneself off from others, being alone, being isolated. And then we have Capricorn, which is the sign that starts the winter solstice. It's the sign of death. It's the sign of, it's ruled by Saturn. It's a sign of being kind of isolated and alone and independent, and it's self, right? It's me. And sometimes the thing that those two signs have a little bit of a hard time doing is they go from independence to complete isolation. They tend to cut people off sometimes, and that can be like more of like a fear response. And so just kind of a word of warning that like whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to pursue, whatever values you hold are really important, and you should hold by them, and you should pursue the things that really light your fire. But make sure that it doesn't like lead to any extremes, like allowing yourself to be separated from your support systems, or being a little too devoted to your ideals so that they blind you to the rest of life. Then on the 7th, at the end of the week, next week, we're going to have Mercury behind the sun. So it's back in the, it's back combust behind the sun, making that aspect to Uranus. So it's going to have a lot of the same vibes and themes as the 5th. So you'll kind of continue to experience those themes, a little harder communication, but it'll peter out by the next day. Then we have Venus in Aquarius trine Mars retrograde in Gemini, which I'm super excited about this aspect. I think this is going to be really fun. It's not quite as good as Venus and Jupiter, but Venus and Mars, the archetypes of the masculine and the feminine, we have making a really good supportive aspect to each other. So I think this is just where things really come together and really blend for us this week. They'll likely affect people really strongly who have night charts, which means if you're born after sunset or before sunrise, like when the sun was below the horizon, these two planets are really important and really seem to affect people with night charts. So this might affect you a lot, but it's kind of in a good way. So we have the kind of themes of cohesion and balance and this give and take between activity and passivity. We have the blending of ideals with logic and action, and being able to put things into motion, along with making sure that things feel right, you know? Like, are they true to our true selves? Are they good for the people around us? Are they helpful? Is it serving the greater good? Is it serving your own greater good? Stuff like that. I think most of this will happen really internally, especially with the two signs that are talking to each other, is Aquarius and Gemini. And those are two air signs, which is a lot about like thought and ideals and perception. And Gemini can honestly be a little bit like seesawy in their interests and their ideals, you know. And this is coming from a Gemini rising. This is not like, that's not no shade or anything. Sometimes they can see every side of things, so they can be a little bit seesawy, if you know what I mean. But they'll be balanced out by Venus in Aquarius. Aquarius will kind of help you find your footing, and along with the kind of merging of activity and passivity that Venus and Mars are bringing to your life. And I think they're really going to allow you that really good balance that you need to put things into motion that you want to embody and that inspire you at the beginning of this week. So I hope you found this video helpful. I hope that it kind of resonates with you. Please comment below, because I'd love to hear any of the things that are happening. You can do my hashtag Compass Rose, and we can kind of chat and see what you're experiencing, and I'll share my stories too. All right, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.